Hey, everybody. That was the fastest going live in the history of going live on
Yeah.
StreamYard. So, we're going to talk tonight about customer service and interactions with people and all the things. Because, boy, I've got a couple things that I think y'all are going to find pretty funny too. So, Vicky, you go first.
I've just had the most interesting 2 hours and 36 minutes with,
Interesting.
yeah, well, and there was an hour before that, but the 2 hours and 36 minutes I got sent over to billing, and and I had switched to AT&T in August, and my bill has never been what it was supposed to be. I was getting billed for things I wasn't supposed to get billed for, but oh my gosh. And I'd been from store to store. Anyway, I end up on the phone with people in Asia. And I'll tell you what, Laura and Jin were the people I was talking to, and they could not have been nicer. And it was a reminder of how life used to be, where people's first default is courtesy. And that's not our default anymore.
Mm.
Our first default is to curse, be angry, get in people's faces, and who do you think you are, and all that stuff. And every time they came, and it's very trained and it's very specific. Every time I'm put on hold, it's thank you for being patient for the long hold. Things like that, that they say thank you. They say, could you please tell me? And I realized, okay, this is how, maybe this isn't natural, but this is how they're trained. However, they are choosing to behave like this. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
that is so much better
Mm-hmm.
than how we often are.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated it. Now, hopefully my problem is solved after 2 hours and 36 minutes on one for billing. And then the hour before was for the problem with my phone, where I don't have voicemail. So if anybody's trying to call me back, because I don't have voicemail. And that's only been 3 hours in the store and three different people, and then the call before the 2 hours and 36 minutes.
Sounds
That
like a
was,
walk in the park.
and I think, golly, this is a lot to ask of somebody, to be patient. But what was so interesting was this young man I was talking to was telling me how much he loved American romantic music. And now, okay, I had already said that I was retired. So there's no question that I'm some 20-year-old, right? And anyway, and he said, would it be appropriate, is what he said to me, would it be appropriate if I sang to you while we waited? And so he's singing songs from the 80s, American 80s and 70s, because he loves our music. And I said, Jim, when were you born? And he said, 2000. And I thought, wow, here's a 21-year-old guy who loves American music,
Mm-hmm.
loves American culture, and
Mm-hmm.
so much that he's singing to a retired woman on the phone, trying to make life more pleasant for me in my hold, because he knows that it's a long wait, and that I've been very patient and nice, and and also everything I told him he could look up and find out that it was true. I wasn't trying to hustle the guy. I wasn't trying to, I was just being truthful and saying, see that this was never used, and see that we bought it on this day, and see that I was billed for this,
Mm-hmm.
see that I went into your store on this day. And he said he said it in a very heartfelt moment, that customer service is hard because people curse at them. And I thought, oh gosh, that makes us look so bad when we do that. I mean, here we have all these blessings. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can remember being on a cruise ship and talking to my room steward, who had four kids and lived in a corrugated tin shack. He said, I
Mm-hmm.
live in the slums. And he said, our room is 20 feet square. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, 20 feet square with two adults and four kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going on a cruise, and I think I have this obligation to recognize my blessings, and that very few people in the world can do the things that we in America do. And I really, boy, when you're on customer service and you think about those blessings and how people have to put up with rudeness, and that's just not okay. I think we need to be mindful about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure many people are nice. I know
Right.
that my patience is not good, and I have to remember what I've been given. So you're having a Dr. Pepper there, sister?
I am having a Dr. Pepper and a protein shake
Together.
and
Well,
Starbucks.
okay. Yeah. Okay. It doesn't have milk in it. So,
Yeah, well, the protein shake does, but I kind of alternate stuff. I have to drink a lot of protein during the day. Um, so the reality for me is that yes, folks, I drink about, um, you know, 4, 5 cups of protein a day because
how many grams are you trying to get in?
I'm trying to get in about 120 grams of protein total a day.
Whoa. That's a lot.
Mm,
That's a lot.
so
You're drinking a lot of shakes, girl.
those of y'all that don't know, I had bariatric surgery 2 years, almost 3 years ago now. And I've lost 160 pounds, but no, I'm not thin. If you saw me, you would be aghast that I've actually had bariatric surgery. But part of that, maintenance for this is 80 to 120 grams a day and of protein. And I tend to stick higher towards the high end of that at the 120 plus because I do weight training. And I've been trying to work on strength and muscle mass, and I do strength training twice a week with a lot of weight. Um, yeah, so I have a lot of fun in the gym nowadays. But in order to be able to do that and to continue to build strength and build muscle, I have to drink a lot of protein, and I don't absorb all the protein I eat. So there you go.
There you go.
Haley
I don't
drinks a
know
lot of
anybody
protein.
who's had bariatric surgery who is thin. Maybe they're
Mm-mm.
out there, but I don't know anybody who is.
I've known a couple who are, but yeah,
Yeah.
most are not. And honestly, it's harder to be thin once you've been very not thin, once you've been as morbidly obese as I was to start with, just because, we have a lot more muscle mass, we have a lot more fat cells on our body, we have all the skin, we have all the stuff. It's just not as easy to get down and hold that weight off. I mean, I've kept off pretty much everything I've lost, but I never got terribly thin in the first place. But yeah. I lost another 30 pounds, I'd be happy.
Me too.
You and me both, right? Maybe we should make that a goal this year. But so anyway,
Yeah.
so talking about crazy stuff. So I told you I would tell you kind of a crazy story. So I don't know how many of y'all know. I've been around on Facebook for a really long time, and I've been building my online business in Women's Entrepreneur Network for a very long time. I started growing Women's Entrepreneur Network, which is now at 75,000 members
Yay,
in
you.
2015. Been around a block or two.
Mm.
Those of you that don't know, I'm also a software engineer. I've been a programmer for most of my career. I was a programmer at IBM, Dell, EMC, and a couple of startups along the way for funsies. I write a lot of code. I've written a lot of code. And I have an MBA from Duke, which to most of y'all may not really mean much, but it means I got a lot of really hardcore business training. It also makes me really, really skeptical about certain things being taught or certain tools being sold in the marketing arena. One of the things that just came onto my radar recently, again, I keep wishing this thing's going to die out, but I don't know. I mean, there is a group of people that are trying like heck to sell this idea of using AI for automated marketing on Facebook and LinkedIn. First of all, it's not AI. It's simple conditional statements in your programming. It's very simple, basic programming that you would learn if you were a first semester programmer in college, or
Why are
if you
they
were a high
calling it
school hacker.
AI?
So it's not AI. It's a fancy name, right? Oh, it's artificial intelligence. It's not. It's just simple conditional formatting. Let me tell you, AI is a lot more complex because AI learns. None of this stuff learns. Second of all of these AI marketing tools are a violation of terms and conditions for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And as soon as the platforms determine that you are using one of these chatbots, because that's all it is on their system, you're going to likely find your account shut down.
Ooh.
And people keep coming around and selling this as the latest, the greatest, the bestest way to get clients, high ticket paying clients. And I've had people that are like, yeah, I'm making $4 million a year. And it's like, that's great, but I don't know you from Adam. So I highly doubt it. And second of all, you're going to have to prove it. If you tell me you're doing all this stuff, and if you're telling me you're using chatbots on any social media platform and expect me to think that it's AI, you really must think I'm pretty stupid, because you obviously didn't look at my profile. But I mean, I see a lot of this stuff being sold, and it's being sold for like tens of thousands of dollars.
Isn't it amazing that somebody wants to insinuate herself into your life, but hasn't even bothered to read your bio? And then they start talking about MBAs, or they start talking about programmers, or they'll talk to me about, oh, you know how lawyers are, or they'll talk about pilots. And I'm thinking, you don't know what I do. You don't, but you're trying to sell me something for, $100,000. Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of this stuff. And I mean, what really frustrates me is that, I do have that education. I do have that background. Obviously, you didn't even bother to try to pre-qualify me, but you tell me you're making $3 to $4 million a year.
Yeah, by not knowing how to read, right?
Or your virtual assistant who tried to pre-qualify me did a really piss poor job. And don't get mad at me if I start asking you questions in the interview about, basically, who are you? Tell me who you are before I'm going to even talk to you. And so, yeah, it's just been an interesting sales model. I've seen a lot of people lately who are trying to pre-qualify you before they decide that they're going to talk to you. Y'all, this is kind of a piss poor way to do business.
It's rude.
Well, it's not just rude, but it doesn't really, me telling you how much money I made last year.
That's rude.
Is rude. And it's not going to tell you if I'm going to make a good candidate for your coaching program. Because you need to understand what my business model is. Y'all, I'm a digital marketer with a side of coaching. And I choose to coach people in very specific group programs with very few one-to-one clients. So, yeah. I just, buyer beware. When somebody is selling you a program, I see so many people out there that are like, I'm making bloody bloody blah a year. And I'm like, yeah, I bet. I know they're not.
Yeah, but to think that they can take up your time and insinuate themselves into your life and not even bother to know anything. It's not like selling you a box of Girl Scout cookies. We're talking about big ticket items. And to pretend that they know who you are, it's just insulting. It's just rude.
Well, and it's like there seems to be somebody teaching this like model of, I'm going to teach you a very specific skill set, and I'm going to charge you $18,000, and it's going to be a 6-week program.
And what are we creating? We're creating a lot of thoughtlessness. We're creating
a lot of people that have a lot of massive credit card debt, because they're probably going to put that thing on a credit card and then lose their shirts. Because here's the reality. That latest WYSIWYG is not likely going to actually make you any money.
And you and I have talked about this before, and we talked about it fairly recently about when you are building your business, when you start putting things on a credit card. I mean, for me, I wish I could have put payroll on a credit card. Oh, what I would have done with all those airline miles, right? But yeah, I would buy office supplies, pay them off at the end of the month. There was no carryover. There was no carryover because I knew that once you start doing that, you are sunk. You never get out of that. I mean, look at the financial problem that people are having. And it usually begins and ends with credit cards. Consumer debt is credit cards.
Well, and the other thing too is, you know, a lot of times problems in a business are both operational and marketing.
Say more about that.
So, you know, if you say you don't have enough leads, I don't have enough clients coming in the door. I always look at a business and I start looking at it as, what is your marketing process? How are you getting people in the door? And then what are you doing with them once you've got them? And what are you doing with your leads? And what are you doing with your past sales? If you've been in business for 4 or 5 years, how is your business not like self-fueling to some extent? And I start to look at it.
No, hang on a second though. Look at my business. I'm a divorce lawyer. I'm hoping it's not self-fueling.
Right. No, to some extent. But you're going to have people that refer, you know, hey, I had a really good experience with Victoria Bentley. Hey, let me refer you. There's going to be some amount of,
and it was huge,
low level and sometimes huge amounts of word of mouth referrals. Right now, you have to have the marketing to support it. So I look at like,
you got to have the website.
You got to have all the pieces and parts.
Yeah,
right?
You got to have it.
But I see a lot of businesses where they're like, oh, I'm not getting enough leads. And I'm like, okay, are you really not getting enough leads, or are you really not closing enough leads?
Yeah, but I want to say something about that, because you and I were in a mastermind group together, and there were people who never had enough leads because they weren't working hard enough to get enough leads.
And they weren't getting the right leads.
That too.
Right? If you're generating leads, are they the right leads? Are you getting enough of the right leads? Are you working your leads? Are you doing the things?
And who's qualifying the leads?
And how are you qualifying your leads? You know, and that's almost an operational process. Like, what is your process for, you know, moving your leads through the system? And that always starts to become a question that I have. You know, what percentage are you closing? And I start really looking at, where are the gaps actually happening in your marketing?
Let's go back to customer service for a minute. And I want to say something that I think is really important about that. And I think I could be, you know, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Clarence Darrow, you name the lawyer. I could be all of those people rolled into one. And if my admin or my paralegal, my office manager, whoever's answering the phone, if she is not polite and caring, it potentially could destroy my business.
Absolutely.
And I was very fortunate to have a woman who worked for me for a dozen years who really cared about people who called.
Right.
And would come and get me and say, I got somebody who called, you really need to see them today. And she knew what I did. And she knew how to qualify these people. And she knew how to talk to them kindly on the phone. And this wasn't some act. This was genuinely.
It has to be real. You can't chatbot your way through this.
Yes, it was genuinely real. She knew, oh my gosh, she knew what
who's urgent and who can wait until next week.
Yes. And that person, and we used to joke, lawyers are a dime a dozen, but a paralegal, whoa, now that's a gold mine there. And I know that when I sold my firm, that one of my predecessors went through 10 paralegals in the first 2 years. And I thought, well, there's your personality problem right there. But it's also, especially, and this is a whole different day and another topic,
Mm-hmm.
but women working for women
Mm-hmm.
versus women working for men. Oh my gosh, to have someone who is really okay with the Butch and Sundance Kid thing as opposed to, well, I can do what you do. It's like, no, you don't have my license. You don't have my education. Your job is to answer the phone, be nice to people. My job is to earn this salary and bring up enough money to pay all of you and take, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of, and I saw, and I, you know, other women I know who own businesses, there was a lot of resentment by women who worked for them, working for women. Who does she think she is to have that
Mm-hmm.
handbag? Who does she think she is to have that car? And when they worked for men, they were much more deferential. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they just as soon yell at you, but they would never yell at a man. And I would go into the courthouse and I'd go to the filing offices or the recorder of deeds, different areas of the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be with one of the partners in a law firm I worked for. And it was always, hello, Mr. Jones. Hello, Victoria. I mean, they would be falling all over themselves for the man. And it took everything it had to be even a modicum of polite to me. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of resentment. And I thought, well, gee, you know, did I do something? Was I rude? No, it was and I thought about this and I think that goes back to customer service, that noblesse oblige, you've got to act as if everything's fine and you have to, no matter what, maintain a sense of decorum. And that's hard to do, especially when you would just like to punch somebody.
When they deserve it.
When they deserve it, yeah, and you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And the young man tonight who was helping me with my problem, we had these long pauses, and he sang to me. He sang to me. It was the sweetest thing. He said, "I like American music, and I'd like to sing to you." And it was just the neatest thing. And he said, "My job is hard because people will call and they'll curse at me, and I'm not allowed to curse back." And I thought, yeah, you gotta take it. You gotta get punched into the ground, and you gotta take it. And that's very hard. And I think
I bet the turnover rate in that job is astronomical.
oh, I would think so. And I would think that's why it's all offshore, because Americans aren't going to do it. They're just going to say, pound sand, I'm not putting up with this. I mean, I think that's kind of the way we are now. But I think about this and I think we have to set the tone. We have to set,
Mm-hmm.
if we want our people in our offices to treat our clients and our leads and our potential stuff well, then it has to start with us. Oh,
Absolutely.
we got somebody eating out of the bag again. There she
Yep, we do.
But I think I can
She
fuss
stole my
about that
dinner
all I
tonight
want,
too.
but I have to make sure that I'm modeling what it is I want to see, because this is where it starts. It has to start with me. And how many companies, and this is another thing, perfect example. And I've told the story about the bank that wouldn't lend me money when I wanted to go to school when I was in my 20s, and all I needed was $2,000 more. I had saved the rest. I needed $2,000 more. They didn't want to lend it to me because they didn't think my job paid enough at the time. It was fascinating, and I ended up doing well and knowing a lot of the bankers, knowing one of the officers of the bank, the senior VP, and I said, "Look, I'm in a business of divorce law where I have to tell everyone to open their own account. And I'll say, today you go down to whatever bank and you get your own account so that your money can't be wiped out by your spouse. You need to have your own money. Get your paycheck put in there. Yep, pay your share of the bills, do all that, but have control over your money." And I said, "Kathy, I'm never going to send them to your bank. And here's my story why." And you think about it. Do you know who the CEO is of your bank? Do you know who the officers of the bank are? You know who the board is? No. But you know the teller who's a bitch, right? Or you know the teller who always says, "How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? Like the handbag, like the blouse, whatever it, you know, the fact that they
Mm-hmm.
care enough to say, 'How are you? Haven't seen you in church in a while,' whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that customer service is the make or break of any business. And people have lost sight of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's imperative. I don't care what business you're in. It's imperative.
Mhm. Absolutely. Customer service is absolutely where it's at. It's all about the customer.
Amen. Amen.
And sometimes the customer's going to be a butthole. And you have to, and it doesn't necessarily make them like a total asshole client. Like we talked about pain in the ass clients,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but they may be coming at it from a point of deep wounding, you know, and they're not necessarily an asshole, but they're just in a difficult spot. So,
Right.
you know, we look at it
and that's none of my business anyway.
right.
My business is to deliver a certain product or service, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And two things can be true at once. You can be a real jerk and you need legal help, or you need a website built. And we have to figure out a way to communicate to get that done, because even if you're a jerk, you've got the skills to provide the best website. So yeah, we can't
You do it.
Don't waste your time looking at the whys or the wherefores. Just, it's all about the customer.
Yep. Love it. Keep the customer focused. Thank you so much for being with me here tonight. This has been awesome. Thank you guys for
Love it.
Chatting with us. We love you guys. I hope you will have a great rest of your week. Stay dry, stay warm.
Stay out of the blizzard.
Yeah, and tell me over under on how many inches we're going to get here in North Carolina. Closest to the pen gets a signed copy of my book. We'll talk later. Oh, 4. Oh, we got 4 before. We got 4 last weekend. No, thank you.
You're going to get 4.
She says we're getting 4, y'all. Tell me how many inches you think we're going to get here in North Carolina. Closest to the pen gets a signed copy of my book. We'll talk later. Bye.
Bye.
2.5. Yep, 2.5. Oh, boy, I'm in trouble. See you. Have a good night.